What an episode, Dave. What did you think?
A lot to unpack with this one. Quite a bit happened. A lot of the questions we've been asking ourselves over these last 3 episodes coming before this, even the last 2 seasons have been sort of addressed. So this was a big one. This was they didn't leave a lot on the floor. And wow, what a different show this is. This doesn't feel like any episode of Westworld I've ever seen. Even with the 3 that came before this, sort of in mind. This has been a very different season, and this episode in particular has taken the show in a very new direction, which I'm excited to talk about.
Yeah, the show is ramping up the speed quick. It's not a slow burn this season. They're getting to things quickly, and it's exciting. Like last episode, we were kind of starting to get on Dolores' side, and now again she's the villain, and I think she's going to remain the villain for the remainder of this season. Now that the mask is off, there are 5 Doloreses, Dave. What do you think?
Yeah, right. Well, they fooled us all with this, for better or worse, because we had known that Dolores had left Westworld in the body of a copy of Charlotte Hale, had reconstituted herself, like a body for herself. And we had assumed had created some new life form, had brought Bernard back. So we assumed that these other pearls, brain balls, whatever we want to call them, were from some of her former followers from season 2. Turns out they're not. They're just copies of Dolores. And there's Japanese Dolores. There is surly Irish, Scottish Dolores. And now we also have, I guess it would be the Charlotte Hale, the Tessa Thompson, right? So there's four different versions of Dolores, plus Dolores Prime, if you will, or the one who's at least going around in Dolores's body. So yeah,
and then there's Bernard. So there's 6 hosts in the outside world,
plus Maeve, right? Yeah, including Maeve.
And Maeve now, so she's number 7.
Yeah. So the other one. So what did she do? She basically, those ones that she snuck out. She basically wrote a copy of her software over top of, and maybe did she erase those people that she got out? If Teddy had been one of them, is there no Teddy anymore? I think is one of the big questions I was left asking myself.
I think, I think you could see Teddy come back, but if he comes back, it'll be from the park, not from Dolores. I think Dolores was done with him the second she shot him in season 2.
Yeah, I guess that was her goodbye to Teddy, and that makes sense. And this whole episode title, "The Mother of Exiles," is that, not just the Mother of Exiles. I assume this is referring to what's her name? Sorry.
It's referring to quite a few characters. Actually, The Mother of Exiles is a poem from the 1800s. I'm actually going to read it to you, but it's about the Statue of Liberty, which is also interesting because of Serac being from Paris. Paris is where the Statue of Liberty came from, and the Mother of Exiles poem is about basically immigrants coming to America and the role of women and the role of liberator, liberty, all those concepts. So.
Right.
Real quick, I'll just read the poem for you. Okay, one sec. Sorry. Anyway, also you can look at Maeve being a mother. She's the mother of the exiles of the hosts. She's so they're both they're kind of like a duality thing going on. Very much so. So this episode reminded me a lot of The Matrix. Whereas Dolores is kind of the Mr. Smith character and Maeve kind of the Neo character, where Maeve has the ability to control technology just like Neo, can kind of read the code, but is kind of inferior to the system at the beginning, which I think is going to change going forward. I think Maeve is going to be like a Neo and start to figure out code and start to figure out how to take down Dolores. And they're going to be kind of like the ultimate foes for each other going forward. That's how I read it. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I definitely that there's been a Maeve Dolores showdown. Sort of these two heading in opposite directions or are on a collision course, depending on which way you want to look at it, for a while. Season 2 had a bit of that. Now we have Maeve working for Serac, who is the villain of this season, sort of against her will. It's like it wasn't really much of a choice she was given. She was like, you have to do this for Serac or he'll kill her effectively. Like he's holding all the cards. So, how much is Maeve doing this because she really cares or just because this is what she kind of has to do right now? It seems like it's more the latter.
She cares about what? About Serac's cause? Is that what you mean?
I don't know if Maeve does care about Serac's cause. I don't. She's just seen. Was she convinced by what she learned? Because they're initially. So Serac is one we have to really talk about in this episode. We learned a lot about Serac in this episode and sort of where he's coming from. The fact that I guess so. He's a kid from Paris, and Paris was destroyed by a nuclear attack.
Yes.
And he was far enough away that he didn't die from this. But that sort of became maybe the tragic event in his life that led him to pursue sort of a perfect world, or to make the world, to make that not possible anymore, for that kind of suffering or destruction to happen. He talks about being sort of Paris being trapped in his mind, and how it's gone now, and so that he created this new world to sort of undo that or sort of make it better. And in the pursuit of that, as with many villains, maybe lost his way along the way, or maybe not. We'll learn more about him as we're going. But it makes sense. It tracks as something that, like, at least they're giving this villain a good motivation, that he's sympathetic, that we can sort of maybe understand why he did what he's done. Even if it's maybe not just.
Well, he's one of the only characters that we know for sure is like a human and is kind of like on the human side, I guess. He's very much like kind of holding the torch for the humankind. He's not on the host side. He's on the opposite of the host side. Yet he's trying to use Maeve to kind of convince her of we can both exist, but we have to be in separate worlds. And he's like, I will build you a world, but we need to get Dolores. She is the key to what we need to do that. But he's also using her, I think, I don't know if it's like a failsafe, because I do feel like he says to her, and I don't believe it, he says to her, like, oh, I saw you coming and Dolores coming a long time ago, and I'm not really afraid of you. I'm afraid of humankind a lot more. Humans have always been their worst enemy, their own worst enemy.
Right. And that's logic. But why does Serac not think that there's a place for their kind, meaning the hosts, in the human world? Why is he against that?
Probably because his Rehoboam program has determined that it always ends badly if they interact.
Not that he has some kind of like prejudice against artificial life necessarily.
I don't know. He doesn't say that, so that's not my assumption. My assumption is what he knows from his program that predicts the future. That would be my assumption. But maybe he is. Maybe he is like just he doesn't say, for a guy who built a program that did what it did. I would imagine he's not anti-technology. He just doesn't want it controlling humans.
Right. Like, well, his technology is a form of artificial intelligence. It seems like intelligence, right? And he wants to be the only controller of that. So I think if we can consider Serac somewhat on the level, which I'm not sure that we can yet, maybe he has some kind of plan that the hosts can live off in sort of that la la land, that great beyond, that simulation heaven, which is that's the carrot he's dangling at Maeve, right?
Right.
Work for me, stop Dolores. She's a bad egg. And I guess, and I'll give you sort of this salvation. You'll be able to be with your daughter, which is what I guess we think that's what Maeve's ultimate goal is, right? That's all she cares about, is sort of like having peace and sort of a happily ever after.
Well, she also has said that she wants a world for her people where they're not under slavery, basically. Right? her and Dolores have a lot of the same things in common as far as goals. They just have very different ways of going about them. Dolores is more calculated than Maeve is. Maeve is a little bit more reactionary to the moment that she's in. I feel like Dolores is ahead of the game, mainly because she's older. That doesn't mean she's smarter though. Maeve just might need some time to catch up. And if she has like the Rehoboam program before Dolores does, I think that could really change things. But
Right.
that all depends on what happens to her after this episode. I mean, she was gutted by Sato, also Dolores, Japanese Dolores.
Yes.
So she's coming back, but I mean, for the moment, she's out of the count. And we didn't get to see quite what Japanese Dolores was doing.
Well, I guess the only thing I took from that was the Japanese, we call her Japanese Dolores, which is in the body of Sato, who was a host from Shogun World.
Shogun World, yes.
That, as far as I know, the Dolores host never met, right? I can't remember.
But she knew everybody's experiences in the park, right? Was it only humans? Or did
no, she kind of like had all this information, so
she seems to know everything now, Dolores. So it's like it's a great writer's hack to they can take anything from anywhere, and Dolores knows it.
So it could have been as simple as like, hey, I need an infiltrator with the Yakuza. I'll just pick the best host for this kind of host template, and then I'll put a copy of my mind in that host, and then I'll be able to run my Yakuza affairs through that.
Okay. So
which is basically disposing of bodies is what she's using the Yakuza for.
Yes. Seems like it. She's going full scorched earth. That's my feeling on it. This is gonna like it's kind of like reminds me of Daenerys in Game of Thrones in the last season. Not spoiler alert, but she goes crazy. And we're gonna see a lot of that, I think, with Dolores, that her power hunger is going to overcome her. It's already, I think she's already there. It's just she's very calculated, especially last episode. She was very, very calculated with Caleb. Mm-hmm. Now, there are a lot of things that the show is doing that is tied into symbolism. And like I watched this whole thing where they were comparing Caleb and Dolores origin stories, like just like shots, like like when they first show Dolores, they show her on a bed on her back, and it's a certain shot, and they do the same thing with Caleb. They have certain things that like they shoot the same way with Caleb as what they do with Dolores, and the whole idea of a simulation within a simulation keeps coming up. Is Caleb in a simulation, and this is all in his head, or is the whole thing in a simulation within Rehoboam? We don't know.
That seems more likely, but I don't think that Caleb is removed from the events of the show or these other characters. Like maybe they're all in one big simulation together. Maybe this is all in Sirach's world. Maybe. But yeah, I don't think that Caleb specifically or any of these characters is sort of in their own little fantasy that I can tell.
Right. Okay. So you ever heard like the poem, like "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe"? You ever heard that before?
It's on the Statue of Liberty, right?
Yeah, it's on the Statue of Liberty, but it's a poem about the Statue of Liberty, which this episode is titled after. The title of the sonnet is "The New Colossus," which references the old Colossus was the ancient, golden statue that had one leg on one piece of land and another leg on. It's in Greece, but so the new Colossus was that was a man, the old one, and the new one is a woman. So, but a lot of symbolism going back to Dolores and Maeve, and just the idea that like the Mother of Exiles, which is said in this poem, from her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome, her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that Twin Cities fame.
Okay.
Just like it's just there's a symbolism going on that a woman will be the liberator, but maybe also it has double meaning. I think it could liberator for who and imprisoner for someone else. I just think that's what we're gonna see going forward. So the one character we have not talked about yet, though, is the Man in Black.
Man in Black had a major. Well, this is his first appearance this season with Ed Harris playing William. I still don't think we've learned the last name of this character, but we'll just ostensibly call him the Man in Black. He makes his season 3 debut in this, and he's in rough shape. He is home, it seems, after the events of season 2. He's returned. He's in basically a nervous breakdown, stricken from grief. So he seems to be on some terms with the fact that he killed his daughter, believing her to be a host. But
he doesn't know what's real and what's not, is what is kind of going on in a lot of ways. He says he does, but even it seems like he does not. And it seems like he can't remember what happened after he killed his daughter. So
anything that happened after that.
Right. So a lot of theories are going around, host or human, and there's a lot of evidence for both going forward, especially in this episode.
Well, it'd be consistent that every character eventually becomes a host on this show. Yeah, like it could be. What's going on with his hand? I know it was injured.
It seemed like he injured or he chewed his fingers off or something happened to his fingers, like they got blown off. I don't know.
Something happened at the end of season 2, and it was definitely like his arm was messed up. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Got shot in the hand, didn't he? Didn't he get shot in the hand at one point?
Yeah, maybe.
And then maybe they had to amputate his fingers or something. That's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, that he doesn't have that. He has a part of that hand still, but not all of it.
It looked like they amputated like like these fingers off, this part of the fingers off.
Oh, okay.
He just had like the nubs. That's what it looked like to me.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, like, so he's seeing his daughter in he's going crazy, but the daughter is like almost, it's like, to me, she was like Dolores in his head. Like it was all the Dolores cadence of talking, the hate, the anger toward him.
Yep.
I feel like it was Dolores just fucking with him from the beginning.
Well, we know that Dolores was, doing that because she is the Charlotte Hale host, as we've learned, as many of these hosts are. But and she knew that he was talking to her, but I got the sense that that it was more of an illusion. Now, if he's some kind of host, then maybe these are implanted by Dolores or somebody else to torture him.
Right. And if it's not, maybe it's some sort of drug or something that she's giving him, that she does prick him at the end of the episode with something that makes, I believe, him hallucinate her when he's in the jail cell.
Right. So, so that's kind of the end of where he ends up. But so, he spends most of it like drinking. There's things broken. He's dealing with like this maybe hallucination of his daughter. Not sure.
Yeah, he won't
Hale shows up and says, "Hey, we're being bought. There's a big takeover. We need you to come and get involved." But this is all a ruse.
It's all a ruse, and we know he won't go into the bathroom where his wife killed herself. So some of the theories are, especially with the symbolism that we have with Maeve as well later in the episode, is that when she killed herself, the Man in Black also killed himself in that tub and slit his wrist. That's why the blood in the water symbolism has been there for a few episodes going back to season 2. And
that would mean that the William we've been watching as has not been real all along.
That's correct. That would
been a host the entire time.
That's the theory for the host. No, not the entire time. Ever since, yes, the entire time. Yes,
because his wife died before season 1, right?
So ever since then, yes, that's the theory. That's the host theory, that he's always been a host, and it's just the consciousness, implanted from the library or whatever. And that's why he's been obsessed with the game and he can never solve it and all this kind of stuff, right?
I don't know if I want that to be true.
Me either. I do not want it to be true, but it is a dang good theory that seems right.
To me, I think the Man in Black is much more interesting as a human character. Then I know that we will get to some sort of host version of him down the road. I just don't know if I want it to be now.
Yeah, me either. I much prefer. I want less host characters. I want more human characters, or just give me a balance. Now we have 5 different Doloreses. This is going to be exhausting.
Wait, so but it's at least 4 Doloreses, right? Hale, Chibs,
Dolores,
Sato, Dolores Prime, and we don't know who the 5th is, right?
Is it only 4? No, yeah, maybe it is only 4. I thought there was 5. There's
I think
also
there could be one we haven't seen yet,
there's also Bernard, which we don't know if Bernard is Dolores either.
or if Dolores is not at least influencing things.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Do we want to shift to Bernard? Or what's more to say on the Men in Black? Is kind of what I'm wondering.
Well,
So.
I think there's quite a bit to say with it. Was just he's a broken person. There's a good thing I heard that at the beginning of the episode, his mind is imprisoned, but his body is free. And at the end of the episode, his mind is his body's imprisoned and his mind is free.
Mind is free. Yeah, that's interesting.
And
when she turned the tables on him, right? She kind of reveals who she is, and she goes, "Oh, these aren't security guards. These are guys that work at the mental hospital, and they're taking you away."
Yeah.
And she pulls this whole thing on, and it's when we're getting revealed that this is one version of Dolores, and there are multiple versions of Dolores now. And what I'm wondering is, how did you feel when this happened? Did you feel like triumphant? Yeah, she got him right back the way he used to get her. Or do you feel sympathetic for the Man in Black and William, and perhaps Dolores is the more villainous one now than he is?
I think you're supposed to feel both. You're supposed to be kind of like a conflicted in a way that you feel both feelings, but I feel more sympathy for the Man in Black because he was a broken man feeling grief, guilt, real emotions. And Dolores, you could say it's real emotions too, but she's more bent on vengeance, revenge, death, destruction. So for me, she's more the villain now, whereas it's the tides have turned. Whereas in season 1, the Man in Black was more violent means to accomplish his goals, and it's just completely reversed now. So maybe it's a little bit of the student becoming the master, and we have a little bit of that kind of those symbolisms. That's what the show loves to do, is completely flip things, and they do a great job, especially this episode. I thought this was a fantastic episode, just to set things up for the next. What is there? Only 7 or 8 episodes this season? I think there's 8, right? So we're halfway through season 3.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if ultimately does the Man in Black evolve into some kind of anti-hero or some sort of like reformed villain, or somebody we're sort of rooting against Dolores or not, because Dolores wants to tear down Serac system. We don't like Serac very much. Okay, she maybe she's got a point. Maybe her goals are noble. And maybe why shouldn't we be cheering for what she wants? But we kind of know from season 2 that she takes things way too far, right? And we saw a lot of that, with how her little revolution within Westworld went.
She's not acting based off emotion, though. Like in a lot of ways, she already knows the end of the story in so many ways. Kind of like Serac, where she's read everybody's profile. She knows everything. Like she says to the Man in Black, "I know you down to your bones." Like she's fucked. Like she knows exactly what people are thinking or about to say or about to do or what their tendencies are. It's unfair as far as the Superman goes. And I think it also proves when she defeats Maeve in the sword fight that Maeve is supposed to be smarter. Like she's supposed to be super smart through the roof. But that doesn't mean, I guess, you're a better fighter. But she obviously knew Maeve's fighting style or fighting tendencies that she was able to defeat her quite easily. So I just think Dolores is like that Mr. Smith in The Matrix 2 when he's on steroids and he's just, there's thousands of him and he knows everything. And it's just like, it gets to a point where it's so ridiculous, and it's getting there. But I do think you're going to see like Bernard. There's going to be a coalition of people that are going to be out to stop her. And
Bernard, Stubbs,
Liam,
maybe eventually Caleb. Who knows?
Because Caleb.
He seems like he's along for the ride right now. I think, obviously Maeve and whomever.
And then Serac.
Right. Well, I'm also wondering, okay, what are the consequences of Dolores splitting herself into four different bodies like this? We saw that it's having an effect on the Hale version, that the
Yeah.
Hale personality is sort of tormenting this version of Dolores that's piloting that particular host. That could also be true for these other two versions in the Martin Connell's version and the Sato version. Will they ultimately still be aligned? I would imagine so, but we'll see how that progresses.
But to think
Uh,
that like only a couple episodes ago they were giving us all the clues that it was Dolores. Like I know you better than anyone, and you know me better than anyone. Like they were giving us it right in front of us, and we were like, "Is it Teddy?" Like
right. Well, I'm watching it and going, okay, who's Teddy? Who's who? How are they going to reveal this? And I didn't even really put it together right away that it was all Dolores. I go, oh, it's all Dolores. Like, I guess that's possible. We just haven't seen that before. So
yeah, like how are
cool.
these brain balls made? Like they show us how the body is made, but they never really show us how these brain balls are made. Like are you just uploading that stuff? Like you're moving a JPEG. Like how are you making a brain ball? Seems like a
But
complex thing. That's all.
yeah, it's some kind of a hard drive, effectively, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I just that's I guess she manufactured them. I know she got them at the park, but were they people that were like in storage, and then she just wiped the old personality, and then like I wish we had a little bit more intel on that.
I think, with the exception of Bernard, I think that that they were just like maybe four random pearls she pulled out of whoever, and then she just rewrote them with her own software. She just
Yeah,
kind of she did a what would the like a whole hard boot. She reinstalled the operating system from scratch.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
like a wipe.
a wipe, yeah, and with the exception of Bernard. And so, yeah, let's talk about Bernard and Stubbs and what the hell these two are up to exactly. And like they're like the worst buddy cop scenario I've ever seen. Like they're sort of
Yeah, they're
like
both
they
just.
have no idea what they're doing. I'm
Yeah.
amazed they've made it this far.
They're like
Uh,
what's that movie with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg? Where they're cops and like they're kind of like those two guys. They're like so bad. They're like
they're
at
kind of
their.
like Discount Lethal Weapon, or there's
Yeah.
something. I don't know what's going on exactly. Maybe
I,
that's intentional.
I have, yeah, I think it is like because you're not. I don't think you're supposed to have any faith that like, oh well, Bernard's going to stop her. I think you're kind of supposed to think, no, he's not capable of stopping anything.
I don't have no
You know?
faith in Bernard to stop her. If anything, he's sort of just this little like fly that's buzzing around, and he's dragging Stubbs around along for the ride. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's not a lot. I'm like, I wouldn't be worried. And even when Bernard does show up, the Martin Connell's version of Dolores says, "Oh, hey Bernard, we've been waiting when you would show up." So Dolores knows Bernard's going to come in, knows that Bernard's going to try to mess things up.
So why
Uh,
bring him back? What is the reason? Why put him in a Bernard body at all? You have his ball. What is going on? Why is she like? Is she just like playing a game with herself, as if to like, oh well, I need to have some sort of a foe trying to stop me, or is it like what is the purpose?
I guess it's like the only thing that makes sense is she's a check and balance. He's a check and balance. Like he's meant to be a failsafe for her on some level, to stop her from going too far, I think. But that seems like, considering that Dolores is sort of covering things from all angles, I'm not really sure like why she would do this, why put Bernard in play like this.
So the first season after this first scene after the credits, opening credits is Dolores and I think Arthur in like Arthur's house before it's built. Like they're really in Bernard's brain ball when she's bringing him online.
You mean Arnold?
I think yes, but I think it's Arnold. Did I say Arthur?
Arthur, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Arnold. Um, yeah, I think it's Arnold because he goes, "Oh, this is your house. You finished it," and he goes, "No, I didn't." Like Bernard wouldn't know this. This is like Arnold talking. So I feel like she must have put Arnold's personality somewhat within the new Bernard
But
because
Bernard is a version of Arnold's personality.
right, which is why like you see like his brain ball is kind of like half red compared to the other ones that don't have any red in them.
Mm-hmm.
Where that apparently the red is showing that the human side of the brain ball. Kind of like they incorporated the information from his like background into the AI. So like, and the more red, the more human the ball. But
Right. Well, like Bernard's based on a real person,
right.
while still being his own person. Or whereas Dolores is created from nobody, right? She's created from scratch, and so are
Right.
many of these people.
And whenever she brings somebody online, she has to let that person figure out who they are on their own. Because if you tell that person, you get what happened to Delos. And so you can't do that. There has to be a natural discovery of who they are. Even when they bring them back online.
So, okay, because
That was what I got from what's going on. Like when they first wake up, Charlotte Hale, the fake one, and she's talking to herself essentially. Like it's not automatic that she's Dolores and boom, I'm ready to go. Like there's a discovery that needs to occur. And I think it's the same thing with Bernard, and the same thing with Ben and Black.
Well,
it happens to be a host.
the thing that got Delos, the person, the man, the father-in-law of the Men in Black, was that his guilt from turning his back on his son near the end of his life was like the one thing that was sort of like he kept coming back to, and that was sort of the error that sort of kept killing that host version from like ever succeeding, right? And in the case of Bernard or Arnold, what that I guess that if you were to do the same thing, it would be all about sort of how he died and his struggle to give the hosts.
Well, it's his son too. It was his whole Bernard's whole thing has always been his son.
But did Arnold have a son, a real son?
It was actually Arnold's son.
Oh, okay.
And they showed that in this episode as well. So
right.
Like Arnold has a son, Maeve has a daughter. Like they pry on these like themes that are whenever the host comes online, they need to. That's how they figure out who they are, and then they can kind of become sentient.
And that just sparked a thought too. Like as we know that didn't work on the Delos version, right? And if this Man in Black was a host, the guilt or trauma from his daughter's death would have the same effect, even worse, on him. So that would give credence to me believing that this Man in Black is not a host because of that.
I'm not even completely convinced that he killed his daughter, or maybe he did, but like Dolores said, like you think it was your choice, and then you think it was, like you think your grief was your choice. All these things she's saying to him are like very much, I don't know, like kind of like you don't you think you have free will, you do not. Like kind of like she says to Caleb, like Rehoboam says in 10 to 12 years you're going to kill yourself. That's what's going to happen. Like
probably that's what our magic ball is telling us, our crystal ball, and that's and it's probably like a 99% chance, but you can't guarantee the future. You can't guarantee what people will do.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're right. Like, what is going on with Bernard and Stubbs? I mean, they're in a whole you know what they remind me of? Supernatural.
Yeah,
they're in a friggin' hotel room, drinking beer, wearing bad T-shirts, and going, all right, we're gonna stop this one.
Right. Well, yeah, and that. So what happened? They left Westworld, which is in the South China Sea. Somehow they got a boat. Somehow they got themselves to America, and then they swam for 5 miles, and that's how they made it to America. That's right.
They swam, from one island to another.
Wow. And then he got his shoulder injured. Is that what I heard? That Stubbs, can they dislocate shoulders and things like that?
All right. Yes, I think so. But here's the deal with Stubbs. They should have left this guy human. Him as a host, I can't deal with it.
Yeah.
He's drinking beer. He's like, I just don't get this character. Like he's
the most human host we've seen. Really.
Oh, by far. It's not even close. And it's like maybe he has a lot of red in his ball. I don't know. We'll have to find out, I guess, in the future. but like I have a hard time taking him as an AI because everything he does is so not what the rest of the AIs do.
Yeah, maybe it turns out that Stubbs is based on a real person too. It wouldn't be the first time that Robert Ford would have done something like that. So maybe there was a real Ashley Stubbs at some point that he's based on.
And then
Yeah, but like
you replaced him, kind of like Dolores is doing now, replacing people.
right, and I guess so we get a little bit of scene with them. They come to the conclusion that that Dolores was after this guy Liam, right?
Right.
Who we've already met, we already know. And so they assume that he's the one that's been replaced with a host. That Dolores is making hosts, and she's planting her moles. So that's the mission they get put on, and they'll ultimately correspond with Caleb and Dolores Prime, we'll call her, at the masquerade. So I think maybe worth mention. Let's talk about. We talked a lot about Dolores, but let's talk about Caleb a little bit because. So he's now a soldier in her cause. He's joined her pretty full-heartedly, although he seems to have a lot of reservations. And she hasn't told him who she is or what she's nothing about any of that. Right?
What she really wants, what she wants to do, other than she wants to start a revolution. She did tell him that.
And tear down the system.
Yes. Which he wants to do because the system's kind of fucked him over. So I kind of get what his motivations are. But every now and then, like, where at the ambulance where she went full Terminator on those two guys. And then in this scene where she, the first scene where she, she's acting like, hey, I'm Olivia. Do you still work for this company? He's like, actually, matter of fact, I do. And then she just slams the guy's head against the fucking wall and then takes his blood. And then, and Caleb both times is like, what the fuck?
Well, yeah, like Caleb doesn't come across to me as a very violent person. He seems to be really shocked when this kind of stuff happens. Although he's seen Dolores do it, so I don't think it would have been that shocking. He saw her kill those cops pretty handily. She killed those bad guys that were trying to get him. So he's seen her kill at least 4 people.
Yes.
I think it's a miracle that she left that guy alive at all. The guy that they jumped on the street.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, like Caleb, for sure, because they've set it up so much that he has somewhat of a conscience. He's somewhat of a good guy. Goes back and sees his mom, but his mom doesn't recognize him, which brings up the simulation theory again. Anyway, the whole thing with Caleb is, I don't think he's going to stay healed the next 4 episodes. Like, at some point he will go to the good side.
Yeah, well, I think what we see here is that he's eventually going to turn on Dolores. He's going to slowly realize how ruthless she is, if he hasn't already. But for the moment, he seems to be loyal. He seems to be still on board with whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bit of a heist thing here. They hijack this guy. They steal his blood because that's where the encryption is, I guess. The encryption code they need to steal all the money. Because they steal all of Liam's money plus that guy Michael? Or was that guy just like the money manager for Liam?
I think they just needed his blood because he was like, the accountant or something for him or something like that they needed. It was probably just a security thing. Mm-hmm. That's what I got out of it anyway. So then they take all Liam's money and then they say, rich people, that's the thing about rich people is they have so much money, they never think they're going to lose it. And,
right.
So there's a bunch of good lines like that. And then they go to this eyes wide shut masquerade ball type thing. And
so it's a sex auction. Is that what was going on? But it's very classy.
It's very, but the music going on is actually fantastic with the violins or whatever it is, cello.
What were they playing through that?
It's a certain song that they covered. I'll look it up 1 second. What? It's called Wicked Games by The Weeknd. So
The Weeknd. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a cover of that they're playing. Like I think it's a string quartet that they're playing, and it's pretty great. It really fits with just the show. Like they've done a great job of suiting the music, and apparently she does one of these per season. She's done two other ones. So where the artist called Ramin Djawadi. It might be a man. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, like just the whole ball. So we're following Liam. Sometimes we're following. There's all these characters are at this event, including Bernard and Stubbs, and Caleb is there, and with Dolores, of course, and there's Martin, the host.
Okay, so
and Liam, right? And that guy Roderick is back, like the friend couple of that we met in like the first episode, I think.
Yes, the guy who said
they're back again. So I think they're obviously going to be important somehow.
Yeah, they're going to be in the show more for sure. So just a quick question. You see like the poster behind our videos right now, the poster for the season is like almost like this post-apocalyptic. It's a AI sitting by like in front of a whole city, and it's all sand.
But yeah, I can probably bring it up if you'd like. Give me a minute here.
Well, if you can, we can just talk about it quickly. It's just odd that we have seen no symbolism, no flash forward, nothing to really make this poster make sense. But I think it will by the time we watch the last episode. Something Dolores is going to do is going to be catastrophic to this world, and she will burn it down because she doesn't give a shit. That's what I think.
I guess, yeah. I think it would be in character to do so. Here, I'll bring up the full screen version here. 1 sec. All right, let's just get that up there. That might work better. See that?
Yeah, so there it is. And it says free will is not free.
Right, and we see this this android robot, a host. It looks like an early model host without any skin on.
That's right. So it's just interesting. Is this in the past? Is this in the future? It'll be interesting to see what they do, because I do think that the symbolism is an accident.
Yeah, well, I think that the other thing too is that sorry, there we go. Like we've seen a lot of these different worlds, in various glimpses. We saw the war world, we saw Shogun world, medieval world, the list goes on. Future world is another one from the original movie, the original Westworld movie from like 1973, because I think that one is like future world, Westworld, and medieval world. So it's possible that if you're thinking like they're all in a simulation or this is all fake, it's very possible that everything we're seeing right now is just part of future world.
Wouldn't surprise me at all if if they've been in the park the whole time, and if they do some sort of like thing where like Robert Ford never died, or I don't know. I could see some sort of crazy twist where it's like this has all been an experiment, or this has all been been to get more data or whatever. Wouldn't shock me if they did something like that. And everyone went, "What? Okay, all right." But like, okay, so like just with Serac here, where the whole thing set up with he wakes Maeve up in Singapore, although also he says he starts talking to her about, like I said, humans are humans' worst enemy. Like he's been, everything he's saying to her, and then he goes and he starts he's interrogating this one guy that has dirt on Dolores, and he puts glasses on him, and it shows him alternate futures of what would happen to him if he helped him, and if he did not help him, what would happen to his family. And it is kind of eerie, terrifying that they don't show you at all what he sees, but it's all left to your imagination.
Yeah, you're left to imagine it. Like this clearly cements like Serac is a bad guy, right? This is not something a good guy would do.
Well, there are no good guys on this show. I mean, there really isn't. I mean, there's not one single character that you could say is
not purely good, but at least like sort of a character you can get behind.
Yeah, I think right now the only character we could really say that about is Maeve.
Yeah.
And
maybe Bernard, but he's so hard to cheer for.
Bernard is tough because Bernard is so inept. He's so like always. He's never in control. He's never in the position of power ever. He's always fighting from a position of disadvantage, and it's hard. It's hard to root for him because he's going to fail, and or you just feel like he will. And so when he does do something successful or he does something good in that way, I think everyone's just going to be like, really? Okay, I didn't see that coming.
Right.
And
Well, it's part of because Maeve and Dolores are just so capable, right?
yes,
And Bernard is just not. He's like he's made it this far, and good on him, I guess. But he's just not impressive. He seems to be even under the thumb of Dolores, probably. So he's hard to cheer for in that way because we don't know. She could turn a switch and make him bad right away. So it's we'll see.
we will. Yep. So then we get a scene there again where Charlotte Hales with Ed is with the Man in Black at his home, and then she starts shaving his neck, which actually is another callback to season 1, where Dolores was shaving the Man in Black's neck, I believe,
All
in
right.
season 1 as well.
Right. Before
So
we found out this was Dolores, I thought that was odd because I was like, "Is this something common you do for sort of business associates slash?" I guess the Man in Black is like the mentor of Charlotte Hale or something, but it's a
it's
weird
just,
thing to offer somebody to do for them.
and for somebody she hates so much, she has no she's like, all right, I'll shave your neck. Like she could kill him, she could do whatever the fuck she wants with him, and she
Mm-hmm.
wants to torture him forever because it's what her daughter wanted. I don't really believe that. Again, I think that's what she wants. She wants him to go sit away forever, and even if it's his host version,
For sure. Yep.
she just wants him to suffer rather than die. She doesn't want to give him that satisfaction.
Right. Yeah. Again, like we said, did this make him a little more sympathetic? Maybe. We'll see. We'll see what he does with this now. What direction Man in Black goes in. He could go even darker if he ever sort of has a chance to take revenge on Dolores. I would imagine it would not be good.
I hope he does. I hope he does go darker. No, I do. I don't want to. I just hope he goes more vengeful. I want to see. I want to see this go back to bite Dolores in the butt.
Well, we said last week, maybe he'll end up as the Man in White, and by the end of this episode, he's in all white jumpsuit.
That's right. He's the man
He's
in
the
white.
Man in White.
Yes. So that actually and that happened. So is he going to be? I think it'll be kind of boring if he's like the guy for good and he's teaming up with Bernard. And I mean, I think that's probably likely. But I'd much rather see him become the Man in Black again and go full vengeance on Dolores because I just think it would be more entertaining.
I think he has some motivation now. I think they both hurt each other badly enough that either he will live and let live with Dolores, or he will go for the jugular.
Yes. I hope we get to see the jugular because that'll be entertaining as hell. I'm excited to see that because we need two sides. I feel like going into the last 2 episodes, we need to, and they're starting to draw those lines. Then it's Dolores on one side with Caleb, and then everybody else on the other side, and that's what I see anyway. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think to our earlier points, probably Caleb's not going to be on her side for that long. Like, what does it say that she can't even trust these other hosts that she could have brought with us? She only trusts herself to do this mission.
That's right.
Right.
She doesn't trust Eddie. She doesn't trust her father, who was very loyal to her.
Mm-hmm. I think he's dead, right? He's gone.
He must be, or Clementine, or any of these hosts that were pretty hardcore, like her.
Mm-hmm.
She just, like you said, doesn't trust them, and so that's what Maeve says to her too. She's like, you don't want to build a world for us. You just want to rule over it yourself.
Yeah, I think that's what Teddy saw too, right? And this is why she has trust issues now. She doesn't feel like she can trust anyone, and because I think people see through her. I think they see her actions and they go, "Well, you seem like you're doing this to sort of right the wrongs of the oppressed and to bring your kind out of the shadows and out of shackles. But really, it's about you sort of getting your payback for your suffering."
That's right. Yeah, she definitely wants to get her payback, and she also doesn't believe that the rest of the hosts have the capability or mental ability to accomplish what she wants to accomplish. So she's like, she'll just leave them out.
Only Maeve, but she can't control Maeve.
Right, but she even knows more than Maeve now, having been to that library thing and where she knows everybody.
Yeah, so they have like different superpowers, right? Like, so Maeve has like the technopathy abilities, like she can talk to machines and she can kind of bypass locks. Dolores can't do this, but Dolores has sort of like this vast knowledge database in her mind. Plus, she's in multiple places at once in the multiple copies of her.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, Maeve. Like I said, I do think that the comparison goes back to Maeve is more than Neo, and then you got Dolores as more than Mr. Smith or an agent.
And so, does that leave Bernard as Morpheus, or somebody, or maybe somebody even less significant?
Bernard as Morpheus would make perfect sense. Yes. Yeah, and Caleb Trinity.
Caleb's Trinity. Okay, I'll have to unpack that later. Think about that. Yeah. Where do you want to go next with this?
I mean, we've covered most of the episode. I mean, we could talk about the fight sequence that happens at the Eyes Wide Shut bar between Stubbs and Dolores. That was actually a pretty cool part of the episode. I enjoyed that watch. The fight sequence. There's two great fight sequences in this episode. The samurai fight and then the fight with Dolores and Stubbs. Stubbs gets thrown over the balcony, which I thought was very strange that was the end. I was like, that's what ended him? I was like,
he fell. He broke a bone, probably.
Yeah, he's a machine.
Yeah, like I'm sure he's not dead. But yeah, so they reluctantly fight each other because Stubbs says, I don't even really want anything to do with this. Bernard's just kind of making me. And yeah, she kind of sympathizes for that. So they have like this fight that neither of them have their heart in, but they both have to fight each other. I liked the fight. I liked the choreography of it. I liked the fact that they actually had a fight because often, like they don't show that kind of thing, especially when men are fighting women. They're not humans, so it's not the same thing.
Right.
So I liked that they just played that out. That it was sort of this minor thing that we're going to come back to. Yeah. The whole ball itself, weird, I guess.
It's
what I'm trying to understand about the whole scene was what was like between like Team Dolores, what were they trying to do with Liam in this episode?
It seems like they were just trying to take his money.
But to what end? What are they trying to? Because at the end she says, "Hello, lover," and she's like in his face, and she wants something from Liam, right? She wants to extort him. That's why they stole his money. So because she doesn't need more money, she wants to control Liam on some level.
Bernard or Stubbs says to Caleb that they replaced, or it says to Martin, there's a reason why they didn't kill Liam, and it's not clarified. Like I think we're supposed to find out next episode. But there's a reason they didn't kill Liam and replace him. They did it to Martin instead. I think Bernard says that at one point.
Yeah, and so Bernard works out that Liam serves some kind of a purpose alive. Right. They need him alive,
right?
And that's why they've done this, so they can manipulate him into doing whatever. What do they need him to do? Help get closer to Rehoboam somehow?
Yeah, it's not clear. It's not explained. Not yet, anyway. I don't think. I didn't catch on it. If it was, other than the last we see of it is, Caleb runs down Liam and he goes, "I'll give you whatever you want." And then he goes, "What do I need for you? I already have all your money." And then Dolores walks up, and then she says, "I think." So then that's the end of it. So we don't really know why necessarily they want him alive, other than he's obviously very well connected within that, like the Rehoboam, or it has something to do with Serac and Rehoboam. And then I think we are going to see Mantis next episode. That was weird that we didn't see her at all this episode. I guess we got a lot of Serac, so we didn't need her. But I think we will get her next episode, and then she's going to be somewhat working against Dolores. She might either be a casualty next episode, or something's going to happen with her.
You're talking about Palm Clementiff's character,
yes.
Who I don't know if they have a name yet, but yeah, they're on Team Serac.
Yes.
Okay, so you got Team Serac, which includes Maeve right now, unwillingly, and then you got Team Dolores, and then you sort of have Team Bernard and Team Stubbs, right? Are those all the factions that we're following?
Yeah, pretty much. There's nobody. They have not shown us really almost anything at the park. Like, Maeve's not really on anyone's team, per se. She's just kind of being.
Well,
she's not on. I don't think she's with Dolores, though. I mean, Dolores killed her, and
No, for the moment, she seems to be an unwilling recruit in Serac's cause.
She's going to build her own coalition, I think, pretty soon, regardless of Rock.
Yeah, she was very efficient in this episode.
She
She
was.
went to that morgue, and then she got the mortician, and then she went to the Yakuza. Like
Yeah.
she got a lot done in a short amount of time.
She did. She moved. She's opening gates. She's disarming guys. She's
She doesn't kill anybody she doesn't need to. She does kill people, but she doesn't.
Yeah, actually, and that's a difference between Maeve. She always gives the humans a chance to disarm or to not. Like she goes, I want to talk to Sato, and then they go, like they immediately get hostile with her, and then that's when she attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so she always kind of gives them a chance at first. So whereas Dolores would just kill you.
Probably.
Probably.
Yeah. More likely to without giving you a chance.
Without giving you a chance.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty much the whole episode, other than the big reveal, which was the four Doloreses, and the whole Maeve getting killed and the Men in Black being committed. Those were the big highlights of the night. And it's where do we go next episode? Did you see the preview for next episode?
Did I? I think so. What happened?
Well, it's just a lot of explosions and stuff from what I remember. A lot of explosions. I'll kind of check it out real quick. 1 sec.
You want to share it?
Sure. 1 sec. Okay, so we'll just watch this real quick, and then we can kind of talk about it.
It was probably skip.
Sorry?
Give it a try. Give it a try. See how it plays.
Building a god was not easy. They were people, outliers.
So young Sirach. We have a young.
Yep.
And as long as they are
young Sirach again.
An even younger Sirach. So it seems like it's going to be a lot about him. Okay. We got Caleb, more Sirach, them looking at a map together, Bernard and Martin, for some reason. And we got Caleb looking confused. He always looks confused. Explosions, some freeway fights with guns. And Dolores with a flashlight. Okay.
Yeah, that was it.
Interesting.
So, it is interesting. We have a lot of stuff going on. I think next episode is going to be the Terminator 2 of Westworld. I think it's going to be just a action-packed episode. Less dialogue and just go. That's what I think they're going to do next episode. And I think it's going to be awesome.
How do you feel like the show is doing overall? Like, do you think it's good right now?
I think every week it's different. Like it's not the same thing. Like it's the same themes, but they change it up on you quick. Like that's what I want out of a TV show. That's why I loved Mr. Robot. That's why I loved Game of Thrones. Give me variety and give me a great storyline, a great arc for different characters. So we can kind of get an overall picture of who we want to root for, who we don't, or who we're against. This show is different though, because most of the people you want to root against, so it's hard. It's kind of like watching Tiger King. There's nobody to root for.
Pretty much. And those who are worthy of being rooted for don't deserve it. Yeah, I can see that for sure. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like this is the same show that I started watching in season 1, really. It's the same characters. But like,
definitely not the same show.
Definitely very different. I don't know how much of the audience is going to stick with the show after this season. And I'm still enjoying this season. I just think that this show, unlike Game of Thrones and some of the other big HBO like cornerstone franchises, I don't think this one will be remembered quite the same. I think that this one is sort of really intellectual, really sort of you have to stick with it. It's a beautiful show. It's got some of the best special effects and acting and cinematography going.
Yes.
And even from a writing perspective, I think it's fresh and original, but I don't think it's always entertaining to the masses, if you will, if that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's not trying to be. It's not trying to be Marvel. It's not trying to be Iron Man. It's not trying to get everybody to have a laugh, or it's not trying to do that. It's trying to make you think big concepts about very complex characters. And it doesn't apologize. It doesn't want you to think this guy's good, this guy's bad. It's trying to tell you like all these people have all sorts of different backgrounds, and that influences the decisions they make. And you can judge them for however you want, but it's unapologetic.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I think I'll be sticking with it. My fear is, are the ratings going to get down to a point where HBO is not going to do a fourth season of the show?
I don't know. HBO doesn't really have a flagship show anymore. So, and they always need one, you know.
So this is currently it. This is one of the big ones that they have.
Definitely.
And just watching it, with Jane, and like she's necessarily enjoying it as much as she has in the previous two seasons. And I'm wondering if the rest of the audience is feeling the same, or lost, or I'm dropping off. Like, hey, this ain't my Westworld anymore. It's all in Future World, and it's Dolores, and who am I cheering for, and whatnot. We'll see. Like, we'll see if the core audience sticks with it.
This is
I hope they do.
If in Tiger King, the Tigers started ripping apart all the people, and everybody started going, yeah, go Tigers. And then eventually you go, oh, this is kind of fucked up. We're cheering for tigers to kill people.
Well, and if tigers were impersonating humans, and then there was more, and some of these tigers were like against them, but it was more of like a fail-safe or something, and who knew? And I don't know. I think that what like Dolores' like mission for vengeance, if it kind of goes any further than this season, I don't think I'll be that interested. I think that this is the season where this has to play out, and then I think the show needs to do something new, and I think it will. I think we'll likely see the show reinvent itself again, if it makes it to a fourth season,
like a new first season.
Yeah.
I could see that. Where like, yeah, maybe this be a season where you don't like could be the last season for an Everett and Rachel Wood. I could
maybe.
I could see something like that where it's been so centric on her character for 3 seasons. I mean, really has.
Like, if the ultimate like result of this season is that like they stop Dolores, like everybody who's not Dolores effectively she's somehow stopped, neutralized, removed, defeated, whatever. What does this show look like without her? It would like automatically fall to Maeve to sort of be the torchbearer of this show. I think is like the main star, and probably Ed Harris as well. And I guess Bernard. He's important still, but yeah, like, does this show still need Evan Rachel Wood? I think it's ultimately going to depend on how this Dolores character kind of shakes out by the end of this.
Yeah, like is she one note? Is she just vengeful, wants to bring down the system or revolution? Does she change at all throughout the season? I don't think so. I think she's going to be the big bad Ultron type character by the final episode.
Yep.
And you're going to see everybody try to band to try to stop her.
And I want to stop Serac too. He's bad too. I
think he's going to be stopped first.
I think ultimately, I think Dolores probably does defeat Serac in the end, and then
I think that happens before the final episode of this season. I think it's happening in like 1 or 2 episodes, and then by the time we get to the final episode, it'll be a full Maeve Dolores showdown with Bernard.
A 3-way showdown.
Yeah,
and then will they go back to the parks eventually? Is kind of because I think that that fantasy aspect of Westworld is what I think we're missing right now, especially. Even though we've had that maybe sprinkled in, but I think part of what made the first 2 seasons kind of interesting was, the first season was Westworld and kind of seeing how that whole like vast world simulation played out. Season 2 is kind of a mix of like the Revolution plus, Maeve spending a ton of time over in Shogun World. So I think we were still getting that aspect of things. Plus, we were getting a whole bunch of like backstory exposition. And this season, they're not in the parks. There's no fantasy aspect, other than maybe episode 2, which had Maeve in that War World simulation for a little bit, where I felt like, okay, it's back to kind of what I'm used to in Westworld. Right.
The question is that simulation that they showed of Maeve and Warworld, is that a red herring, or is that actually what's going on here in Future World, where they're all in a simulation and they're all in one of those rooms, and actually Maeve was in a simulation within a simulation, and Serac is just like the controller of the simulation, or the guy who made that I could easily see the show doing this in the final episode of this season, where they kind of rewrite everything and go, yeah, none of that happened. That was all within a simulation. And who I don't know, they could bring anybody back that they wanted to at that point.
Yeah, well, knowing that the fact that Westworld does have a very loyal like fan base, especially on like sites like Reddit, who spend all their time, and podcasters like us who are constantly theorizing, what are they trying to do? What wool are they trying to pull over our eyes this season? And I think I give it a 50-50 shot. Either that whole world thing was a red herring to kind of throw us off the track and make us think, oh yeah, they all are on a simulation, and that's why they've been teasing it all along.
Right.
Or I think it's just as likely that that is like sort of an Easter egg and something we're going to be called back to. And the fact that Caleb's mother didn't know who he was, but knew the name of Caleb. It wasn't like she forgot she had a son. She
called him Cal.
Cal, where's Cal? And is that really the mother? I don't know.
And why is his background so odd? Mom left him, and then he's going to see his mom though, and then he still loves her, even though he says that was the worst day of his life. He was in the military, and he has this thing in his mouth, and everything with Caleb is like not quite well explained.
And the fact that with Tom Sizemore in that second episode, that he was so well programmed that he didn't even know he was a fake Tom Sizemore.
That's right.
Like the same could be true of Caleb. He might be not human and just a simulation, and but to what end? And we'll see.
What end? I think they want to put this on, in your pipe and smoke it. What if like a Ford or maybe a Ciroc in the real world wanted to see a simulation of what happens if hosts got out of the park, and they wanted to see what the most dangerous host, say Dolores, would do if she got out of the park. So they ran a simulation within a program, kind of like they would have in Warworld, and they got to see what that would have looked like. And this is what we're watching. We're watching that simulation, and so humans can kind of prepare and know what the fuck to do when that inevitably happens.
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds.
I would not be surprised if they did that.
Yeah, neither. Yeah, that this is just a sort of contingency plan.
And and Jonathan Nolan also created the show Person of Interest, which I don't know if you ever watched that show. It was with Ben Linus from Lost.
No, I don't think I've watched that one. Is he play a bad guy on that one though?
No, not at all. Actually, he's kind of like the Watson to Jim Caviezel's Sherlock Holmes. But basically, what they do is they use technology to find people, almost like precog. But it's almost like it's kind of like Minority Report.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna check that out.
Again, he's using these precognition type ideas for his TV show, Person of Interest. Sorry, yeah, that's it. And so basically, like just a synopsis: an ex-CIA agent and a wealthy programmer save lives via a surveillance AI that sends them the identities of civilians involved in impending crimes. Very, very much like a Minority Report. However, the details of the crimes, including the civilians' roles, are left a mystery. So I'm just saying Jonathan Nolan likes this whole idea of almost like knowing what's going to happen before it happens and then seeing what the implications of that. He wrote Memento. I mean, like the guy, if you just look at what he's interested in and what he likes to write, it's very in line with what Westworld is doing, is what Person of Interest did and what Memento did. Just this idea that like basically turning the whole idea full circle. Interstellar did this. He also wrote that. So will not be surprised if he is. I think they are pulling the wool over our eyes, and we will get it pulled up right at the end of the season.
Yeah, I suspect you're right. All right, well, let's see how this plays out. I hope it's not too obvious. Okay, we're about 70 minutes now, so I think we're pretty good.
So I think join us next week. We're covering episode 5. Do you know what the title of that is, Dave?
Genre.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, these interesting titles keep coming.
None of them don't seem to have a theme. Don't seem to.
They all seem to be based on old poems and Bible passages and weird things. I don't know. It's all very hidden subtext. We'll see how clever it is when it plays out.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's been good. I think we've kind of talked through what we wanted to talk to on this episode. It was a great episode, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of these characters. I hope this isn't the end for the Man in Black. I hope this Bernard starts to grow a backbone a little bit and do a little bit more, because he's annoying. And I just hope that Dolores has a foe that's at least equal to her in some way, because if it's too easy for her, it's not going to be very fun.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Who is that? It'll be. We'll see. But
we will.
I'm simultaneously cheering for you, Dolores, and cheering for your downfall. So let's see how this goes.
Yep. And I think you got four episodes to really impress me, and I think you will. Okay, so that's been watching Westworld for episode 4, season 3, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Have a good one.